The Friday Rugby Preview on Borders Rugby Radio with Stuart Cameron.
Hello and welcome to the Friday Rugby Preview. I'm Stuart Cameron. With me this week is Purdie, and we'll be taking a look at the weekend's fixtures involving Borders teams. Lots to talk about as well, and because our commentary game tomorrow is coming to you live from the Greenyards for the very first time, we'll begin with that one. It's Melrose against Gala in National 1, and we're literally frothing at the mouth with excitement as we have the top four clubs in the league battling it out. League leaders Kelso travel to second place there, but Melrose currently third following Gala's loss at Ayr last weekend. And that means, of course, the Maroons are now back in fourth position. And Robin, this weekend, well, it could answer a lot of questions, but then again, it might give us even more to ask. It's one of these ones where it's just so close at the top.
I'd call it a season-defining weekend in National 1, Stuart. It's teams can disappear from the reckoning potentially this weekend, or they can throw themselves right back in the mix. You know, you look at it, and if Kelso win at Ayr and Gala win at Melrose, we could be looking at a Kelso procession from here on in. They've got Gala to play at Pointer, they've got Melrose to play at Pointer. But if Ayr win and Melrose win, then Ayr and Melrose and Kelso are nigh on identical, I think, at the top of the table, and it is game on.
Well, let's concentrate on Melrose v Gala for now and hear from both coaches, starting with Gala's Stuart Johnson, then his opposite number, Bert Greig.
It's obviously what's sure to be a big game for both clubs, with it being Border Derby, third v fourth, Border League game, and it's obviously Melrose Gala. So look, we've had a hard session on Tuesday night, bit of reality check from Saturday up at Millbrae, and we're prepped and ready to go into this game now. Boys are up for it, but we know we're going to have to put on a performance that's better than Saturday past to get a result, and it's obviously a result that both sides will be needing to stay in contention with the league, and then not to mention the Border League final, which is up for grabs as well.
Yeah, looking forward to hosting Gala this Saturday and continuing our run of good form, both on the road and at home. It's our ex-Players' Day as well, so expecting a bit of a even larger crowd than normally we would have as a Melrose Gala game. It should be quite an exciting fixture. Both of us sit in similar positions in the table, and it would be an important one for us to just create a little bit more distance between ourselves and Gala, and keep in touch with Kelso and Ayr sitting above us. But yeah, a few changes. The pack relatively unchanged. Jack Dobie comes into the start at loosehead, and Gregor Lindsay to start in the second row. The backline's had a bit more of a shuffle, just with boys being back from availability. So Donald Crawford's back, and so is Mitch Richardson. So they link up in the centres with Stuart Hutchison returning to 10, and then the Colvin brothers in the back three. Davy returning to captain the side from 15, Bruce on the wing, and Ham Weir on the other wing, and some firepower off the bench as well, like Elliot Ruffin returning to the side, and James Brown, that all look to bring a big impact off the bench as well. A lot of good preps gone into this week. Boys often sort of play up to the occasion or overthink the occasion, but just being really focused on what we're going to do as a squad and as a team to make sure we put in a good performance on Saturday.
Well, as well as the fact that it's Melrose v Gala and the rivalry of that fixture, it's a key National 1 game, it's a Border League match, and also it's Stuart Johnson going back to the club he played for many years and coached as well. So what more can you ask for a recipe there?
Yeah, it's an intriguing fixture, as you say, all kinds of different permutations, all kinds of different things on the line, and yeah, it's mouth-watering. We say it every single week, broken record, etc., but this league is the gift that keeps on giving. One going up, and it is, it's drum tight at the top at the moment, but like I say, depending on results this week, it could be tighter, or it could just about be a one-horse race.
Melrose currently have the upper hand over Gala thanks to their recent good form, but with Gala losing to Kelso and Ayr, this is one that they really have to get points from.
Yeah, let's be candidly honest about it. If Gala don't win, then they're cut adrift from the other three, and it's going to be extremely difficult to see a team that loses 4 games even if they win all the rest of their games, they've still lost 4. I can't see it, to be honest. But I think Gala can cause Melrose problems. I was at the Melrose game on Friday night against Stuart's Melville. They did enough to get 5 points, as was always going to be the case, but they weren't overly impressive. They've got a very good back division. I don't think they've got the strongest pack of forwards in the top 4 teams, if I'm being honest. And I can see Gala holding their own absolutely against Melrose. I think for Gala, a lot will depend on the availability, and we don't know that yet, the availability of Tamasitis. He's missed 2 or 3 weeks and they've lost games, and I don't think there's any coincidence there. I've been so impressed all the times I've seen him in the last couple of years. He's a ball carrier extraordinaire. He takes 3 or 4 guys with him every single time, and my word, he can hit in the tackle. He's a talismanic figure for me in that Gala team, and much could come down to his availability on Saturday.
Well, it's a Border League game as well, let's not forget, and a win for Melrose, and they're in the driving seat, no doubt about that. But a Gala bonus point win would actually keep them in contention to snatch the final spot from Kelso. So an awful lot still to play for in that one game.
Oh yeah, it's, as you say, it's massive. Here's hoping for a big crowd over at the Green Yards, and some half decent weather would be good as well, and it should be a great occasion.
Certainly will. We're looking forward to that. Dale Clancy and Sam Matthews in the commentary box tomorrow for that one. The other game in National 1, as we've mentioned, is the top of the table clash between Ayr and Kelso, and that's at Milbray, and they don't come any bigger than this matchup, where the winner will top the table come 5 o'clock. So let's hear the thoughts of Kelso Director of Rugby, Neil Hinnigan.
There's only 1 point between the 2 teams at the moment. Both teams have lost 1 game each, so it's an intriguing one. Definitely be a battle. It'll be a hard match for both sides. There'll be no quarter asked and no quarter given, I would have thought, on this one. And from our point of view, we're just, again, it's every game's a game at a time and so on. We've been through all this several times. I've spoken about it on here, but we just got to keep concentrating on where we are. And there is pressure. There's definitely pressure there, but we've got to improve on our last performance. We probably had our worst performance of the season against Watsonians, but we spoke about it to the players. We got 5 points and not playing at our best, and that's a sign of a good side. So we'll learn for that, and we've moved on. And obviously we've had a week off because of our fixture changes and so on. So I like to think we'll be a little bit fresher, and we've put in a good shift at training, and we just look to get up there and try and do a number on Ayr. We know it's not going to be easy. Obviously, they gave Gala a fair old thumping last week at home. They've already beat Melrose at home. Recent history, the last 10 years, Ayr are a real powerhouse in Scottish rugby, if not the biggest powerhouse in Scottish rugby. And where they've been in the last 10 years compared to where Kelso's been, it's a bit of a David and Goliath story, really, this one for Saturday. But at the end of the day, Kelso might be able to go up there and nick it, who knows. But obviously, Ayr will go into the game slight favourites, being at home, and their home record is pretty incredible, really. And as I say, the experience and everything they've got on their side will make this a difficult match. But this season so far on the road, we've proved to play a tough nut to crack ourselves. So we've been away to some tough places already, Biggar, Dundee, and Gala, and we've come away with the points. So let's hope that we can get another win on Saturday.
So, Robin, we've heard Neil keep his cards close to his chest all season. What about his comments there?
As is his one, he declares Kelso to be slight underdogs, as is kind of his MO, so nothing to be too surprised about there. But it's first versus second, it's top of the table stuff. It's a massive, massive game. There's absolutely no doubt about it. Kelso can go to Milbray and win. Neil's right, they've been some tricky places and come away with the victories, no more so than Netherdale. And, players like Keith Melbourne, players like Bruce McNeil, in what could be an attritional forward battle, those guys are not going to take a backward step. And if Kelso can sneak a win down there, I think I'm right in saying that they then, in the second half, if you like, of the season, have Gala, Melrose and Ayr all to play at Poinder. I have to go, if Kelso can sneak the win down there, then clearly they are favourites for the title, given the fixtures and how they fall in the second half of the season. But it's going to be a mammoth challenge down there.
Well, Andrew Fleming is going to be travelling across with the Kelso team for that one. We, of course, have to put our Borders hats on and hope that history doesn't repeat itself with 3 Border sides missing out on promotion to a team from outside the area. But fair play to Ayr. They're proving to everyone that they can step up to the plate when it matters. And if they win tomorrow, that's a hat-trick of Borders scalps at home, which will give them so much confidence.
Yeah, absolutely. We've said it before, they because we talk less about them because they're not from the Borders, obviously, they have kind of flown under the radar a wee bit as far as we're concerned. But you mentioned there they will, if they beat Kelso, chalk up those victories against the three rivals, but they will all have been at Millbrae and they need to come to all these places in the second half of the season, and that's a different kettle of fish altogether.
It's getting more exciting by the week.
Oh yeah, like I say, I'm almost sick of trotting out that phrase about the gift that keeps on giving. But I loved this league last year for this reason. It was so exciting into the business end of the season, and it's going to be exactly the same this year as well.
Well, let's go on to the Premiership. It's a repeat of last week's games, but in reverse. So Hawick, still unbeaten, travel to Musselburgh off the back of a 55-5 win at Mansfield Park last Saturday. And head coach is Matty Douglas.
It's always different, a back-to-back week. We played the team the week before and then get another crack at them the following week. So yeah, we're pretty happy with last week's performance. I thought first half really clinical. The challenge was to turn pressure into points, and we certainly done that. And look, second half, maybe work rate dropped a little, made a lot of changes, players in different positions, but look, on the whole, really happy. I thought the structure worked well and we played in the right areas. So Musselburgh will have obviously a few players back this week. They're at home. Stony Hill is a tough place to go, and that's what I've tried to make clear to the players this week, that attitude has to be spot on Saturday, and that we prepare for it like any other game. The pressure's on us, we know that. Every week now, the pressure's on us, the talk's on us when we've got to slip up, what team's got to take the scalp. We just focus on ourselves, and whatever happens around us happens. But if we keep winning, it keeps putting pressure on teams, and hopefully we can build a bit of form into Christmas. And you've only 3 games after Christmas, so we're trying to just pick up as many points as we can and reassess once we get into the new year. So we're really looking forward to Saturday. I think it's another chance to show structure and move the ball about. So team news, couple of changes. Back comes Matty Carrier into hooker, and also Nicky Little starts in the front row. In the middle row, Daniel Sudden will make his first game for Hawick since returning for the Southern Knights, so we're looking forward to see how he goes. Sean Fairbairn partners him in the middle row, and Stuart Graham comes in at number 8. Backline, no changes, and on the bench, Ross Graham comes into hooker. Tom Hope comes in to cover the front row after a few good performances for the Force. Dalton Redpath, Hector Patterson and Logan Gordon-Woolley make up the bench. So yeah, look, we've got a lot of competition for places now. There's a lot of boys putting their hand up. Ruan McLeod and Fraser Rennick dropped down to the Force this week. So yeah, look, competition's tough, and it's what we need. Really looking forward to Saturday. Be a tough mission going up here, but if we get structure right and get our performance where it needs to be, then look, we'll hopefully be on the right end of result come tea time on Saturday night.
Well, you've got a pretty good squad when you can't find a place for former Southern Knights skipper Fraser Rennick and Dalton Redpath on the bench.
Yeah, I think Dalton, possibly right in saying Dalton's started every game this season, and I don't think he'll play any less than 80 in all of those games. He's probably due a rest, but my word, you bring in Daniel Sudden, as well as the Knights, I'm sure he's been in and around the Edinburgh setup as well, and it just goes to show the strength and depth in this Hawick squad at the moment. Matty Carrier coming back in, Fraser Rennick dropping out, Ross Graham on the bench. Talk about 3 hookers. It really is quite unbelievable, and Matty's right, it will present a different challenge to last week, but the table is the table, and I'd be pretty surprised if Hawick came away with anything other than a 5-point win. I think Musselburgh have maybe strengthened a wee bit. I think there's 2 or 3 Super 6 boys maybe there in the draft, but yeah, I'd be very surprised if Hawick didn't march on at the top of the table.
Well, Musselburgh have showed, of course, that they can score tries early in the season, but I will be surprised, like you, if the Bill McLaren Shield doesn't come back from its day out to Stony Hill. Bill Paulson will be there for us tomorrow. Well, another border derby at Riverside Park with Jed Forrest looking for revenge after losing 36-10 last Friday night under the lights at Philip Hoch. We'll start our preview of this game by hearing what Jed head coach Andrew Brown has to say.
Last week was a massive disappointment. We didn't fire at all. We only have a week to wait before we can put it right. Totally out of character to underperform. But this week we've worked hard. We've worked hard on sorting out the errors from last. We've worked hard on being a lot more clinical. And we know when and where we want to up the tempo. We know what this Selkirk team's about. It's a massive battle at the breakdown. It's got a fairly formidable front row. When we sort the errors out, when we put the game plan together that we know we can play, we know we can compete. Being at Riverside obviously gives us an advantage this week, and back on a Saturday afternoon, which I think maybe had a little bit to do with it. This week, Ben McNeil's back in the squad, as is Callum Young, and Paolo starts at tight head. Other than that, we've not too many changes. So hopefully we get the right 15 on the park, and we can take it to the Selkirk team.
Selkirk's head coach is Scott White, who was pretty satisfied last weekend, but what is he thinking going into this one?
I thought the boys played very well last week to come away with a bonus point, and it's the first time this year that we've went back-to-back weeks with a bonus point, which is great from a point of view of points in the league. And it's boosted us up into the top four, which is brilliant for the club. And now there's obviously a wee bit of pressure that comes along with that now, and we want to maintain that and stay in there. So we won 36-10 last week, but we know going to Jed, look, it's never easy. Border Derby, never easy in terms of, and especially going down to Jed when we've beat them the week before, probably makes it even harder. So it's up to us to go down there with the right attitude and the mentality to obviously not allow them a kind of foothold in the game, which will be difficult. But we've worked really hard at training this week, and it's been a really good week. So team-wise this week, Pac will remain much the same. Backline-wise, Josh Welsh is unavailable. He's away for the weekend. So Jack Hamilton will start at scrum half, which I think he's been brilliant off the bench the last 2 weeks, in terms of he's really came on and made a difference, sped the play up. So Jack will start at 9, and we'll have a wee reshuffle in the backline. So Adam McComb will go out in the backline, and we'll have a wee reshuffle there. So we're looking forward to it. We know what we need to do to win, and for us the big focus is just being more consistent over 80 minutes. If we can be more consistent over 80 minutes than we have been in the previous weeks, I'm sure it'll be a good day.
Well, a big win for the Sooters last weekend, but surely we're going to see a tighter match tomorrow, with Jed having home advantage and a lot of points to prove.
Yeah, I think it will be a tighter affair than last week. You'd assume so, with Jed being at home, as you say. They'll need to shore the scrum up based on the highlights package that I've seen anyway, and obviously I think Paulo Ferreira coming into the starting 15 is with that in mind. Selkirk are very upwardly mobile at the moment. They recruited really well at the start of the season, and they've recruited really well when Super 6 ended as well, albeit a couple of the boys are draft, they won't be there forever. But yes, it's hard to see what can change enough for it to be a full reversal. And obviously Selkirk have got one eye on third place. Edinburgh Accies have 3 points above them in the table, but they go to Curry, who ran up a cricket score against them last week. And if Curry beat Accies and Selkirk beat Jed, then there's every likelihood Selkirk will be up into third in the table. And to the casual observer, they've got long odds on that at the start of the season, given their campaign last year. For Jed, they just have to have one eye on what's happening around them. They could do with after some good victories. They haven't done all that much in terms of gathering points in the last 2 or 3 weeks, and Heriots have picked up a wee bit, and GHA, I beg your pardon, had that great win at Glasgow Hawks last week. So Jed just have to be a wee bit conscious of what's happening around them. They could do with a victory, but they've got Heriots to play, they've got GHA to play at home, and as long as Musselburgh keep losing games, then Jed will be okay. If Musselburgh pick up a win somewhere along the line, what might be a shock win, then they have Jed to play at home in December, and then it starts to get a wee bit uneasy for Jed. So they could just do to get something from somewhere before they head to Stonyhill.
And of course Musselburgh did in fact beat Mar, didn't they? Yeah, 11-8 or something, so it was not a high scoring game, but they got the 4 points.
Yeah, and Jed beat Mar in a tight scoreline as well, which might suggest there's not that much between the teams, but there is a bit of daylight now at the moment. There's 9 points of daylight, but like I say, that gap could close quickly enough, and Jed just need to be a wee bit conscious of, like I say, of what's going around them. But I think they'll have enough. Callum Young coming back in, I think for the rest of the season they'll have enough to not get dragged too much into it, I'd like to think. As I said in the preview show maybe a couple of weeks ago, as a Jed fan, if you'd offered me 9th at the start of the season, I'd have bit your hand off based on what happened last season. They won't think that's the best thing ever to finish 9th, of course, but I think this was a season of consolidation from Jed, and I think they've done pretty well, all things considered.
They will want to move away from 18 points, so they've been stuck on that for a little while. Let's have a look at the table, in fact. Hawick 48, Currie 47, Enbrackies 38, Selkirk 35. They're at the moment occupying the playoff places. Glasgow Hawks 28, Mar 27. Yes, they're creeping up. GHA 23, Jed and Heriots Blues both on 18, and Musselburgh at the bottom with 9. So the fixtures are Enbrackies against Currie. That's a 2 o'clock kickoff. GHA Glasgow Hawks also 2 o'clock. Heriots Blues v Mar is 2 o'clock. Jed Forest Selkirk 3 p.m. and Musselburgh Hawick is 2 p.m. And that match between Jed Forest and Selkirk, that will be covered for Borders Rugby Television by Ewan Welsh and by, of course, Robin Purdie for Borders Rugby Radio. Well, let's go into National 2, and the ever-enthusiastic and informative head coach of Peebles, Ian Chisholm, will be a little bit frustrated that his team isn't top of the table at the moment, but they visit Lasswade, and this is what he has to say.
It's clear to our coaching group and our playing group that we need to put in a performance that gives us a wee bit of confidence to kick into the second round of fixtures. I think we're just lacking that wee bit of bite at the moment, and look, last week was a real blip on the chart, and the boys were frustrated and confused by probably some of the interpretations of the laws, and that resulted in us being penalised for dissent 5 times. But we've given away far too many penalties this season, and up until that point, with the previous games that had went by, it felt like we were learning, but going forward, this week of training and last week's been really good. It was good to have the week off. We were able to pick up 2 bonus points in that Falkirk game that helped keep us top alongside Accies. Looking at how we're starting games, really we've only started one game well, and that was Glasgow Accies. Every other game it's taken us about 30 minutes to get into it, but when we do, look, we're usually dominant, but really wasteful. We're changing up our match prep a wee bit. We're looking at how we can get into the players' heads a wee bit more, find out what drives them, and challenge them to bring their own motivation and not, wait for other people to bring you up. It's got to be something that comes from within them as well. And looking at our messages is just around, we want to command and conquer from first whistle to last. And Lasswade, their league position probably doesn't reflect how good a side they are. Their results have been pretty close run affairs where they've come out on the wrong side a few times. They're a stuffy side. They're a strong side, and I think they probably unfairly get tied down with a team that don't play an awful lot of rugby. We've been fortunate to have access to 3 of their games lately, and that they do like to play a wee bit. They have a big physical forward pack. They base a lot of their attack off their strong scrum and maul and their ability to carry flat to the line of 9. When they do get positive carries and positive outcomes, they like to pull the trigger. So we're going to have to be really organised. We're going to have to fold round the corner a lot quicker than we have done in the last couple of weeks, and just make sure that we arrive in the right mindset, because it's been something that's been going on for a few years now, where people's firstly don't travel well, and then people's don't start well, and it's a lot of rubbish. The pitch is the same, the grass is green, the lines are white. And we just need to make sure that we're ready to play a game of rugby, and now's the time that it starts to matter. We want to be still in the hunt and still in the mix come Christmas time, so we need to put in a performance that builds us a bit of confidence. And when I say a performance, that's with the ball. We're doing okay without it. When we get our detail right, when the boys are screwed in, barring first 30 minutes, 20 minutes of every game that we've played except Accies, we're really good. We just need ball, and we just need boys to trust the process and trust that things are going to work, and try not to go off script early doors. Opportunities will come for us, and we're trying to build into games, and we're trying to wear opponents down, whether they've got the ball or we've got the ball. And for that to happen, we just need to keep speaking to each other. We need to use the time that the ball's out, which is a lot, to problem solve and find solutions to what's going on. But look, our squad for this weekend, we welcome back Neil Hogarth, who was a big miss for us against Falkirk. John Napier, he's improving every week. He keeps his place at hooker. He's been great since shifting across from Loosehead. And John Gray, he's getting better and better every week, and he's like a sponge. He's just soaking everything up, and And the great thing about John is he's starting to challenge people and challenge coaches and ask questions, which I didn't really see at the start of the season. Our second rows, Ross Brown and Cammy Pye. These guys pick themselves almost. However, Ross is on standby. His wife is expecting a baby, so if the baby comes, Ross won't be involved. If the baby doesn't come, Ross will be involved, and I'm sure he'll speak to Faye and the baby about the baby's timekeeping in future. Back row, we miss Finlay Collins this week. He drops out of the squad with a shoulder injury, so we have Ewan Jackson, Rowan McKeever and Finlay Sinclair making up the back row. The half-backs, they stay the same from the Falkirk game. Dave Collins and myself, Ian Chisholm. Rob Harrison and Jack Harrison, they remain in the centres, but they swap. So Rob will be moving to outside centre and Jack will be moving to inside centre. Good things happen when Jack's on ball. We want him to have his hands on the ball more, so we feel that moving him closer to the breakdown will allow him to do that. In the back three, at the moment we have Donald Anderson and Buster Davidson. We haven't made a decision on our other winger, mainly due to Hamish Barber's unavailable, Frey McKeever's unavailable, and our Reds have a game, and we don't want to deplete them. But on the bench we have Lewis Copeland, who has been outstanding over the last few weeks, and he's finding his feet and he's also finding his position. He's been playing right across the front row, loose hooker and tight, and against Burramuir he played in the second row, so he's getting about. Andrew Brown starts on the bench, and Peebles' boy, who's just come back over from Gala, Jay Coltman will get his first run out from the bench, and Murdo Anderson comes on as back cover from second row anywhere to fullback. So look, we're thin on the ground. I'm not going to lie about that, but we've been thin on the ground all season, and look, the fact that we're still in the mix and we're still in the hunt is a good thing. We just need to be relentlessly positive about everything that goes on, and when negative things happen on the pitch, whether that's to us or by us, we need to react in a really positive way. And when you get beat once, it's not a massive test of your mindset as a team and what you're all about as a team. But when you get beat back to back, or you put in a poor performance like Burramuir and then into Falkirk, that's when you need to see a shift in mindset and see what boys are really about. Who are the boys that blame others, and who are the boys that stand up and want to actually get better. So we're looking forward to this weekend. We're looking forward to the challenge, but really excited to just get stuck into a good performance where we try and spend a wee bit more time with the ball.
Ian Chisholm with a new record there, about 7+ minutes, I think. Great insight, as always, into Peebles. And, of course, also in National 2, Berwick need to start winning again to keep them out of that rather large relegation zone. They haven't won their last 3 games, but they are back at Scremiston to take on Preston Lodge, and their head coach is Colin Young.
We're much the same team as what we have been pretty much most of the season. I'm pretty fortunate that way. But we welcome back Ali Grieve, who was absent in our last game against Dumfries. Hopefully we'll get back to winning ways, because we've lost the last 3, which is majorly disappointing. But I think we will regroup and try our best on Saturday. Weather conditions isn't looking that great for open, expansive rugby. It could be a bit of an up the jumper fest this weekend, but we'll always look to play rugby and we'll take it from there.
OK, so Peebles need to get back on track. So do Berwick against the very unpredictable Preston Lodge.
Yeah, Preston Lodge looked really good start of the season. They did a number on Peebles, as we've mentioned before, but like this division, we talk about the National 1, but National 2, it's tight at the top. There's only eight points across the top 5 teams. Peebles joint top or second on points difference to Glasgow Accies, so it's all to play for. And if we're being honest, and Ian's an honest guy, if Peebles have aspirations to head north out of this division, then this game on Saturday is one that they have to win, I think. But I think they've proven that they've got the tools to go there. Last Wade struggling a wee bit down 4th from bottom, and I'd expect Peebles, so I'd certainly like to hope that Peebles will come away from there with a victory on Saturday. And
Berwick be quite happy to be back at Scremiston again.
Yeah, in their their safe place, if you like. But yeah, Berwick, I've been really impressed with Berwick this season. They've come up from the division below. They're actually faring better than Last Wade, who won the division last year. Berwick, of course, coming second. But when we seen Berwick beat Last Wade towards the tail end of last season, it looked like they were pretty well equipped, certainly in the forwards, to step up. And I think they've done really well, and yeah, here's hoping they can get that victory at Scrammerston on Saturday.
Of course, they'll still be rueing that Boroughmuir result and also the Hamilton result, the two bottom clubs, and they lost away from home.
Yeah, and it probably emphasises the fact that, especially when you come up a division, there's never going to be an easy game. But yeah, I think they will be ruining that. But Ali Grieve coming back this week, as Colin said there, that's going to be a big fillip. You know, he's played at a high level and he's a good player, and that can only boost them.
Well, next up, we look at the East Bowl final, which will be contested at Peffermill, which is the home of the Edinburgh Sevens, or the Edinburgh City Sevens as they're called. This year's finalists are Edinburgh University Medics and Hoyk Harlequins, who are unbeaten this season in their return from a year off. And we caught up with Quins captain Adam Hall.
Everyone at the club's really looking forward to the game at the weekend. It's a great chance for the lads to play for some silverware this early in the season. We've got a full squad of 22 going to Edinburgh at the weekend with a couple of niggly injuries, but still confident we'll get a squad of 22 travelling. I think the Medics will be a fair challenge. They've won most of their games this season, did well to get to the final of the East Bowl, so we expect a tough game up there, but we really fancy our chances of winning and getting to the National Bowl semi, which would be great for the club.
It certainly will, and of course that year off, I mean, there were a lot of people who thought, well, this is at the end of Hoyk Harlequins, and now they go into another season unbeaten.
Yeah, and all credit to them, they're flying this season. It's great to see them back. It'll be it'll be a test. I'm going to put my hand on my heart here and say I don't know all that much about the Medics team, if I'm being honest, but yeah, they've been running up some big scores, the Quins, and they'll go into that full of confidence. It's great to hear that they've got, I think, a full quota of 22 boys there as well. So yeah, here's hoping they can win a bit of silverware or glassware and bring that back down the road with them.
That would be good. We've got Hugh Brown who's going to be covering that one for us. Also, I meant to mention the Berwick game. Mickey Inotta will be there covering Berwick against Preston Lodge. Now, a little quiz for you here. 4 teams in the Borders still unbeaten. Can you name them very quickly?
Hoyk Quins, Kelso Ladies, and...
Oh, he's come unstuck at the end. Langham.
Langham, of course. Langham, yeah. Apologies to those at Milton.
In fact, talking of Langham, they get back to the pitch again this week in East League 2 after a break with a home game against Kirstorfen. And here's their captain, Nathan Smith.
It's a rescheduled game from a couple of months ago, so this one will see us draw level with everyone else in matches played, and hopefully, all things going well, it'll allow us to open up a gap at the top of the table, put things in our control, which is what we've aimed to do all season. Kirstorfen always travel with a really strong team. We've had many battles with them, home and away, over the years. It's forecast to be a wet and bleak day, so it's going to be a dogfight for sure, but we've had a couple of them this year and we've came out on top, so we're confident that we can do it again this weekend. Team-wise, we're much the same as we have been. We're pretty much the exact same as we were against Livingston. A good mix of youth and experience, which has been really solid this year. We've had the energy around the pitch, and we've also had the know-how in the times of games that are tough. And when you need to have that bit of experience, it's been a really good gel and bond that we've managed to see out games or claw games back when we've needed to. But the main thing I would say is the buzz around, the buzz at training, and we're playing with such confidence. It's really good to be part of this team. You can see it on Saturdays in the games, and you can see the way boys are training, and there is just a real buzz this year. Be down to still being unbeaten, and when you win, and it is a good vibe around the place. It is really good. I just hope that continues. We're going into every game confident that we have the ability to win. We've got 2 tough ones now, Kirstorfen at home and Dunbar away before Christmas, so we're hoping to go into January in a really good position to kick on and, like I said, give ourselves that control, put it in our hands come January and the end of the season, that we're up there and still at the top.
Good vibes down there at Milntown, and also in East League 2, Hoyt Lindeen are looking for their first win of the season, and they're at Dunbar. Former president of Lindeen is our reporter Gary Alexander.
Yeah, we head up to Dunbar on Saturday at Hull Hill Sports Centre, take on Dunbar, who are a pretty big side, who they're usually big up front, fair bit of height, and tough to compete against in the lineouts and maul times, so we'll need to really get stuck in, especially if it's wet, windy, anything like that, which it often is up at the coast. But the chances are that it will be on up there, because our game last week was off at Dalkeith, which was waterlogged. So it means we've not had a game for a couple of weeks. The week before we were at Pennycook. Didn't play particularly well the first half. We were 31-0 down at half time. But the boys really stuck in second period. Some great phase play, especially up the hill. And we had actually scrummaged really well all game and just never seemed to get any reward for it. We never got any scores from it, even though we had a number of scrum fives. So if we can take that scrumming into Saturday, take that second half performance into Saturday, then hopefully we can put in a good performance and maybe even squeeze a result, so get our first one of the season. That's the aim anyway.
A tough task for Lindeen against a good Dunbar side, but we wish them well in that match. And before we go tonight, a chat I had earlier with Border League President Fiona Skeen, mother of Scotland Sevens international Andrew Skeen, of course, because on Wednesday night there was a Border League meeting where all the border clubs get together for a chat and try and put the world to rights. It was particularly interesting on Wednesday because among the subjects discussed was the Border League itself, the Selkirk Sevens being on the same day as King Charles' coronation and the Scottish Cup final, but also the possibility of a district championship returning, which would involve a South of Scotland team, along with Caledonia, Edinburgh and Glasgow, something we've all wanted for a very long time. But the proposal on the table from the SRU is for the tournament to take place at the same time as the Kings of the Sevens.
The Borders for a long time have wanted a district tournament, but the dates just don't fit at all because of the Sevens. It was really at our meeting last night that others said, well, no, they don't fit for players' welfare either.
Because the forwards tend to disappear, don't they, a lot of them, and they don't get involved in sevens. Fine for the backs, who are obviously staying fit. But, I always thought January, February was always, in the past, a good time to have district rugby because there was less club rugby to worry about, and the real serious guys who want to play for their district would find January and February absolutely perfect.
Yes, I think we'll probably agree with you on that. The one thing that obviously they were saying is going to complicate matters even further next year is the World Cup, because that's going to replace autumn internationals. So they don't know yet, what the guidelines are about playing at that time or what the fixtures will be at that time.
I think the main thing, we really do want district rugby. As far as the South concerned, we want the South involved. But obviously it has to be at a sensible time for everyone. And I think even if it doesn't happen the next couple of years, it's something which might start in 23, 24, whatever. But certainly a positive move to see district rugby coming back for players from the Premiership, National One, that sort of thing.
Yeah, they were talking of giving, I think, each region sort of a block grant of 5,000 to get together a team with coaches, etc., etc. But they were talking of a knockout. The first week there was going to be two, straight against each other, and the following week a first and second, and a playoff for third and fourth. But as I said, there were going to be districts who would get no home game in that.
So there's a lot of talking obviously still to be done, but the fact that it's on the table is a definite plus, isn't it?
Oh yes, as I say, the Borders have been wanting it for years, and John Thorburn for years has been trying to get South games going, and even against, he looked at doing it against Falcons academy team, that sort of thing as well, just to get a South game. So, there is a huge appetite for it among the border clubs. It's just, it can't compromise our sevens. And as we say, as they said, you can't ask a front row to go against another front row when none of them have been playing for 8 weeks.
Let's hope common sense comes into play and that all the districts can get their heads around the table and we can have something within a couple of years, possibly.
I would hope so.
OK, well, let's go on to the Border League briefly. We know what's happened so far. We've got a big match coming up with Melrose and Gala. If Melrose win that, then that's Kelso they've beaten, Gala they've beaten, and they've just got Peebles to play. Similarly, if Gala beat Melrose, then it's all in the melting pot, and we get a situation very similar to the other Pool A, where it was down to Selkirk in the end to beat Jed Forest by a certain amount of points or get a bonus point, which they did. It certainly worked a lot better this season so far because you've double-headed everything, which means that, you know, one Premiership team can go through to the final and one from National 1 or 2.
Yes, it was discussed last night that obviously the Premiership teams should not be able to pull in draft players because that wasn't fair when they were playing against the National 1 team. I mean, it wasn't formally voted on, but everybody nodded that that was only fair.
What about Selkirk Sevens? Because as we all know, King Charles will be having his coronation on that day. It's also the Scottish Cup final, which will be happening. And of course, if Selkirk were to make their way into the final, then presumably we would have a situation like we did a few years ago when it fell on the Hoyk Sevens day and Hoyk moved theirs to Sunday.
Yes, I mean, Selkirk said that was obviously had to be, I mean, I would leave them to make obviously a decision, but they intimated that if things went against them, they may have no choice but to do that. But they did feel that the cup final was more likely to affect them than the actual coronation, player-wise, but also to an extent crowd-wise, they felt was their feeling.
Any other business that you want to talk about tonight, or is it all fairly sorted? Because I mean, that's three major things that we've been discussing.
No, I think, it was, other than that, it was a pretty, routine meeting. There is a great appetite to get second team rugby going on a more regional basis, but that's still very early days. There's, I think John Tolban's going to try and move that forward with perhaps a little bit of help from Keith Robertson to try and get people together, feeling that, they would like to get some form in the future of regional second team rugby.
And also, there's been a lot of talk, hasn't there, about from the Borders Referees Society. Obviously, they've not been able to fulfil some matches because they didn't have enough referees. There's been talk of more Friday night games as well. Was that discussed at all?
Well, Ian Hurd was there, and he certainly said that any Friday night games or midweek games, even if they were Border League games, would be very beneficial to them. But he was reasonably confident that they would be able to cover all the games. But as usual, anybody else out there who's interested in refereeing, they would love to speak to them.
Which leads me quite nicely on to your own son, Andrew. How's his refereeing career going?
He's loving it, Stuart, but he can't do a lot at the minute. He's doing a master's degree in educational management. So that's taking, over and above teaching full-time, it's taking a lot of his time. But that should be finished in the new year. But what matches he's done, he's thoroughly enjoyed.
Well, that's good news, and it's good to see ex-players putting something back into the game, particularly referees, because it's not the choice of everyone, is it?
No, not necessarily, but I think he certainly feels he's enjoying it. Obviously, most players, it's either coaching or refereeing, and I think he felt that refereeing was maybe slightly less political, because probably if you're a referee, everybody thinks you're wrong. He has thoroughly enjoyed it so far. He's only been doing under-18s at the moment, just because of, obviously, he's been busy with this degree. But what he's done, he's really thoroughly enjoyed. And
are you thoroughly enjoying being president, the first female president, of course, of the Border League?
I am actually, yes, more so than I thought. I was kind of press-ganged into it in terms of nobody else from Berwick was prepared to stand up. But no, I am enjoying it. And the rest of the Border League reps have been incredibly supportive, I must confess. I've been very, very pleased at this. And particularly Kelso, who've been hosting our meetings. I mean, they've gone out of their way to accommodate us so that people don't have to drive all the way to Berwick.
And do you find that, because obviously you've got so many clubs in the Borders, they've all got their own agendas, they're all obviously looking out for themselves, but are you finding that everyone is trying to get on because there's a lot of things to talk about at these meetings?
Yeah, I mean, I actually discussed with Ali Forsyth, actually phoned me about something else this morning, and he was just saying that last night he was very pleasantly surprised at how much he felt there was more cooperation among the clubs than possibly had been in not all the time, but in some of the occasions in the past. And he felt very positive going forward from what he saw at the meeting last night. He hadn't been for a while.
Well, that's very good to hear, very positive. And I certainly, wish you the very best on your next few months as president of the Border League. And we're all obviously looking forward to many good things in the future.
Thank you very much.
That's Fiona Skeen, lovely lady, doing a great job as president of the Border League. And Robin, what about the idea of this district tournament coming back and giving players from the Premiership and, of course, the National Leagues a chance to really go for it as possibly the pinnacle of their own amateur careers?
Oh yeah, it would be great to see. I think everybody loves the district championship in its kind of old-fashioned sense, if you like, the four districts. I'd like to think it would be a round robin if they can find room for it. But yeah, I think it would be great for players, for supporters. Yeah, how good a team could the South get out at the moment? My word, a pack made up of even Hoyk and Selkirk. Even some of the stagers in that Hoyk and Selkirk packs would be quite formidable. Some of the backs that are playing as well, across all the clubs, National One as well, Melrose, Gala. It's mouth-watering. It would be great to see, and let's hope that heads can be put together and they can find a way to make it work.
To me, it's got to be January, February, isn't it?
You always have ideas, and I agree with most of them as to how the season should be mapped out, and I think there's a lot of logic in that. And yeah, I think that would be the ideal time, particularly if leagues can be more or less wrapped up, if the season was restructured to an extent and a lot of it was wrapped up prior to Christmas or just into January, then it leaves time for stuff like that. And yeah, I think it would be a great concept. Players especially, I would imagine, would get right behind it. Supporters would get right behind it. We'd obviously get right behind it, and yeah, bring it on, hopefully.
It'd be good to see the South going round the grounds as well, wouldn't it?
Oh yeah, I remember when I was a youngster, it was a real highlight when they came to Riverside, and yeah, let's just hope it can happen.
Super. Well, that's just about it for today. It's been a bit of a packed programme, but don't forget Borders Rugby Radio coming to you live from the Greenyards tomorrow at 2 o'clock with full commentary of Melrose versus Gala with Dale Clancy and Sam Matthews. And the rest of the team will be out and about at some very important matches indeed. It's going to be a really interesting afternoon. Really looking forward to that. But for now, from Robin and me, bye for now.